Under the dazzling lights of Los Angeles, where celebrity glamour collides with relentless ambition, one event stood poised to mark a rebirth, not just of a product, but of a global icon reclaiming her voice. The debut of Shakira's hair care line, Isima, was more than just a launch. It was a curated sanctuary of excellence, resilience, and reinvention. Industry elites, A-list tastemakers, and hand-picked media professionals gathered to witness the Colombian superstar unveil what many believe to be the next billion-dollar beauty brand. Cameras flashed, the scent of luxury hung in the air, and everything was meticulously planned. Until it wasn't. Until the room froze. Until Meghan Markle walked in. The moment was electric, charged not with excitement, but with confusion, tension, and the unmistakable undertone of, "What is she doing here?" Guests stiffened in their seats, stylists exchanged glances, and even the most seasoned event photographers paused, unsure whether to aim their lenses or avert them. The irony was brutal. This night was supposed to be about hair. Instead, it turned into a showdown between legacy and entitlement, authenticity and opportunism, artistry and narrative control. Because this wasn't just a party. This was a battleground for reputations. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It wasn't just the surprise presence of Meghan that rattled the room. It was the unapologetic audacity of it. No official invite. No coordination with the host team. No PR crossover that linked the Duchess to the event's purpose. Just a dramatic entrance, as though the world still revolved around titles. As though the room should bend itself to accommodate her presence. And as Meghan made her way across the floor, dressed immaculately in a tailored outfit that screamed calculated elegance, Shakira, flanked by her team, was overheard uttering the words that would soon trend across the globe. Who invited the Duchess of Drama? I thought we were launching conditioner, not a crown. That single sentence cut through the glitz like a razor blade. It wasn't just a roast, it was a cultural moment. A call-out of performative celebrity, a line that perfectly encapsulated what so many in the room, and perhaps many watching from afar, had been too polite, or too afraid, to say. And just like that, the event shifted. What was supposed to be a celebration of reinvention and empowerment turned into a spectacle fueled by passive-aggressive body language, whispers behind perfectly manicured nails, and a very public lesson in how Hollywood truly works when no one's pretending anymore. But let's take a step back. Because to understand why Meghan's appearance caused such chaos, we have to explore more than just the moment itself. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was the culmination of a dozen missteps, silent grudges, industry whispers, and a growing fatigue with what many perceive as an ongoing performance of royalty without responsibility. You see, Hollywood doesn't forget. It forgives, maybe. It even embraces reinvention. But it never forgets a calculated move that flops. And in Meghan's case, her Hollywood resurrection tour had already hit more than one sour note. Just a few months prior, the echoes of Netflix's decision to walk away from her and Prince Harry's megadeal still reverberated across entertainment headlines. The Spotify breakup? Equally messy. Add to that a stream of high-profile appearances where the couple seemed increasingly disconnected from the very causes they once championed. And while Meghan has no shortage of supporters, the room was full of people who thrive on optics, and those optics weren't looking good, especially when the narrative is so carefully constructed and the intrusion so glaringly obvious. Shakira, on the other hand, had done everything right. Her brand, Isima, wasn't just another celebrity vanity project. It was a reflection of years spent under public scrutiny, rising above betrayal, cultural erasure, and heartbreak. The product launch wasn't a party, it was a statement. A woman reclaiming her story, her image, her power. And when she looked across the room and saw it being hijacked, if only momentarily, by someone whose controversies have frequently overshadowed her contributions, the reaction was as human as it was honest. And so, as Meghan glided through the event, trying to insert herself into conversations that felt prematurely concluded, the room gradually turned colder. A-listers excused themselves. Influencers relocated to opposite ends of the venue. Staff members exchanged nervous glances. Shakira, ever the professional, kept her distance. But those within earshot would later recall how her eyes narrowed slightly, and how her team became noticeably protective. Meghan wasn't escorted out, but she didn't stay long either. Sometimes a silent freeze-out says more than words ever could. The fallout was immediate. Within hours, social media caught wind of the incident. Hashtags exploded. Memes circulated. Fan pages dissected every angle of video footage. Tabloids ran with headlines like "The Duchess Crashes the Conditioner Crown" and "Shakira versus Meghan, Hollywood's New Cold War." PR experts began speculating about damage control. And quietly, other celebrities took note. Not necessarily because of any hatred toward Meghan, but because uninvited appearances at industry events are a faux pas few recover from. It signals a lack of relevance, and worse, desperation. In a town where image is currency, that's a bill you can't bounce. Yet, this isn't just a story about one awkward night. It's a mirror, a reflection of how celebrity culture is evolving, of how authenticity is beginning to triumph over entitlement, of how the public, and even more critically, the industry, are shifting their loyalties. Meghan Markle once captivated the world by stepping outside royal traditions. But now, many wonder if she's simply trying to recreate that magic by inserting herself into moments where she no longer fits. Still, there's a deeper question here. Why did she really show up? Was it an innocent misunderstanding? A PR stunt gone wrong? A genuine attempt to support a fellow woman in business? Or was it something else entirely? Something more strategic, more calculated? Because in Meghan's world, every move is measured, every angle considered. This isn't a woman who stumbles blindly into high-profile venues. She's a master of message and timing. So why did this one go so spectacularly off-script? As we unravel the story in the chapters ahead, we'll examine every angle. Shakira's stunning rise and the emotional resonance of her brand, Meghan's controversial PR maneuvers, and past event misfires, the growing gap between public empathy and industry perception, and the subtle power dynamics that played out in that room on that unforgettable night. We'll speak to insiders, explore media reactions, and dissect the real implications this one event may have on Meghan's ongoing campaign to remain at the center of pop culture relevance. Because when a global superstar like Shakira delivers a quiet roast with seismic impact, it's not just shade, it's a signal. A message that the velvet rope no longer parts simply because you carry a title. And maybe, just maybe, it was the moment the world realized that Meghan Markle's royal narrative might not be the currency it once was. The story of Shakira's new hair care line, Isima, didn't begin in a boardroom with beauty executives or over a sketchpad in a luxury product lab. It began in the private chaos of heartbreak, in the painful aftermath of a very public betrayal. As headlines screamed about her split from Gerard Piqué, tabloids reveled in every detail of her personal sorrow. Yet behind the closed doors of her Miami home, Shakira wasn't unraveling. She was transforming. The same woman whose hips revolutionized pop culture had no interest in staying stuck in a narrative written by others. And so, she turned her pain into purpose. She returned to what grounded her: identity, femininity, and legacy. That's where Isima was born. Isima wasn't launched to compete with the Kardashians or to chase a passing celebrity trend. This was personal. It was about honoring her roots, Colombian culture, natural textures, generations of women who had to learn to embrace their curls, their coils, their softness, their power. The name itself, Isima, whispered with the gentle rhythm of her native Spanish, was chosen with intention. It spoke to intimacy, softness, and resilience. She wasn't just releasing shampoo. She was releasing every part of herself that had been denied, controlled, and rebranded by others. The idea took shape while Shakira was still untangling herself emotionally from the wreckage of her relationship. Friends described her as more focused than they'd ever seen her. Morning meetings, long calls with chemists and developers, testing samples herself, even refusing endorsement deals from major beauty conglomerates who wanted to white-label her brand under theirs. She didn't want to cut. She wanted control. This was going to be hers from root to tip, figuratively and literally. At the center of her vision was a simple, yet revolutionary idea. Hair care products designed not by laboratory marketers, but by someone who had lived every shade of performance, public scrutiny, and personal reinvention. Shakira had spent decades on stages, under hot lights, drenched in sweat, twisting and flipping her hair as much as her hips. Her hair had been ironed, curled, teased, dyed, braided, and burned. She knew firsthand what modern beauty routines could do to hair, and what healing looked like afterward. The formulas had to reflect that lived experience. They needed to nourish not just hair strands, but identity, confidence, freedom. The team she built around Isima reflected that same ethos. Female chemists from Latin America, product designers who understood multicultural needs, marketing specialists who rejected tokenism and built authenticity into every slogan. No retouched ad campaigns. No filters. Real women, real hair, real stories. It was rare to see such a blend of celebrity power and grassroots intentionality in the beauty world. But that's what made Isima different. By the time the launch date approached, anticipation was sky-high. The brand teasers had been minimalist and mysterious, showcasing close-up shots of natural curls being rinsed clean, of fingers combing through thick, hydrated strands, of Shakira herself in black and white, running her hands through her freshly revived waves. No loud music, no overproduced glamour, just softness, honesty, and a whisper of strength. The message was clear. This wasn't about fame. It was about freedom. The guest list for the launch event was curated like a royal coronation, only not for monarchs, but for mavens. Women who had carved their own paths in music, beauty, fashion, and activism. Those who had something to say, and weren't afraid to say it. Industry moguls who championed inclusivity, editors-in-chief from top beauty publications, celebrity stylists, cultural icons, and a select few influencers known more for integrity than viral stunts. It wasn't about likes. It was about legacy. Shakira herself was deeply involved in planning every detail. The venue, an elegant rooftop garden overlooking the city skyline, was filled with soft lantern lighting, floral sculptures, and immersive hair experiences where guests could sample and smell the product range. She didn't want gimmicks, she wanted memory. Connection. Every table featured handwritten notes from Shakira to each guest, thanking them not just for attending, but for inspiring the brand's journey. Her message was woven through everything. We rise through care. We reclaim through softness. Even the brand colors were symbolic. Shades of cream, gold, and coral, colors associated with warmth, womanhood, and healing. The product bottles had a subtle curvature to mimic the natural form of a hair wave. Everything reflected intentionality. It was more than marketing. It was emotional storytelling, translated into design. But what truly set Isima apart was the absence of ego. Despite being an international superstar, Shakira never made herself the centerpiece. She made the brand the story, and herself a messenger. She spoke at the launch, yes, but only briefly, just long enough to say thank you, to honor her mother and grandmothers, and to explain how hair, so often a symbol of control, conformity, or rebellion, could be transformed into a tool of healing. Her voice cracked slightly when she said, "This is for every girl who was told her hair needed fixing. It was never broken, and neither were you." That moment, captured by cameras and reshared online within minutes, sparked a tidal wave of emotional responses. Thousands of women commented, sharing their own hair journeys. Others tagged daughters and mothers. Some cried. Some bought the product out of pure identification. In the era of influencer fatigue, it felt revolutionary to see a celebrity not sell perfection, but process. For Shakira, Isima wasn't an escape from her past. It was a reclamation. A way to show the world that pain doesn't have to be hidden behind a pop song or a public smile. It can be channeled, crafted, bottled even, if done with integrity. And in doing so, she'd created not just a product line, but a movement. So when Meghan Markle showed up at the event, uninvited and unannounced, it wasn't just a social misstep. It was a rupture in the sacredness of what had been built. Because this wasn't an award show where celebrity clashes are the main event. This wasn't a fundraiser or an industry mixer. This was a space carved by Shakira, for women like her, for voices like hers. Women who had been sidelined, edited, and misunderstood, but who chose, instead of clinging to titles, to rebuild from the roots. To those in the room, Meghan's presence felt like a disruption of that narrative. Not because she wasn't welcome as a person, but because her arrival seemed to center a different kind of story. One that had already taken up enough space. One that many felt didn't belong in this moment. And Shakira, who had spent months pouring herself into a brand about shared softness and silent strength, chose the most poetic kind of retaliation, not through confrontation, but through humor, detachment, and a perfectly timed roast that would echo far beyond the walls of that rooftop. Shakira's reinvention wasn't loud. It wasn't thirsty. It didn't rely on tabloids or controversies or title drops. It was earned. Earned through silence when it hurt. Earned through sacrifice when it cost. And on that night, in that space, her legacy wasn't just solidified, it was protected. Fiercely and unapologetically. It began like a scene from a Hollywood film. The music was soft, ambient, barely rising above the murmurs of excited conversation. Guests sipped golden cocktails delicately infused with herbs named after Isima's core ingredients: jasmine, guava, chamomile. Laughter danced in the air, and every corner of the rooftop shimmered with understated elegance. It was, in every sense of the word, an oasis, meticulously curated, spiritually grounded, and emotionally resonant. Then the elevator doors opened. No fanfare, no prior announcement, no security detail gently paving the way. Just a shift in atmosphere so sudden and palpable that it felt like the very energy of the room had tilted on its axis. People noticed it before they even saw her. Heads turned slowly, conversations paused mid-sentence, and a strange hush swept through the garden like a breeze that carried a warning. There she was, Meghan Markle, perfectly styled, impeccably composed, dressed in a sleek monochromatic ensemble that gave off the impression of ease, but screamed intentional. Her hair was pulled back in a classic bun. Diamond earrings glittered subtly beneath her delicate veil of waves. Her stride was confident, purposeful, as if she had been invited, expected, and deserved to be there. But she hadn't been. For a second, just a second, the room froze. Not because Meghan was a stranger. Far from it. Everyone knew who she was. Her face had been on covers, on streaming thumbnails, across endless headlines. But that was precisely the problem. This wasn't her moment. This wasn't her night. And her presence had not been accounted for by the hosts or the event coordinators. No RSVP. No coordination. No courtesy heads up. And that changed everything. Shakira, standing near the main product display flanked by her creative director and a circle of close friends, caught sight of her. There was no dramatic confrontation, no theatrical gasp, just the flicker of disbelief behind Shakira's eyes, followed by a glance exchanged with her team. Then the now infamous words fell from her lips, uttered just loud enough for those around her to hear. Who invited the Duchess of Drama? I thought we were launching conditioner, not a crown. It was a surgical strike. Precise, effortless, deadly. The people closest to her stiffened. Some chuckled nervously, others raised their eyebrows. A stylist nearby tried to suppress a smirk, and while no one dared say it out loud, many were already thinking the same thing. What was she doing here? The awkwardness didn't subside. Meghan, either unaware of the tension or determined to ignore it, proceeded further into the garden. She paused briefly near the press wall, where a few photographers were still lingering. A handful of them, almost out of habit, took photos. But it wasn't the burst of camera flashes she might have been used to. It was reluctant, controlled, the kind of coverage that says, "We saw you, but we're not sure we're supposed to." One reporter whispered into his mic, "This wasn't on the run sheet. She's not on the guest list." The murmur began to ripple outward. PR assistants darted glances at each other. Someone checked their phone, looking for an email confirmation that didn't exist. Meanwhile, Meghan made her way across the venue with a diplomatic smile, waving slightly, offering pleasantries to strangers who hadn't expected to engage with her. Some returned the gestures. Others pretended to check their phones. A few discreetly stepped away. For a community where so much is built on perception, where hierarchy is maintained not by crowns, but by unspoken rules and mutual respect, Meghan's unannounced appearance wasn't just a faux pas. It was a rupture, an interruption, not of the event's rhythm, but of its spirit. She had stepped into a space crafted around another woman's vulnerability and triumph, and tried to make it about herself. Even those sympathetic to her couldn't help but cringe. It wasn't the right place. It wasn't the right time. There were whispers, soft but cutting. Is this a publicity stunt? Was she really not invited? Why would she show up to this? One woman at the product testing bar murmured, She's turning this into a scene, and no one even raised their voice. But no words spoken were louder than the ones left unsaid. Meghan's presence had created a void where warmth used to be. Conversations were quieter now, more hushed. Even Shakira's own team looked distracted, eyes following Meghan's movements rather than focusing on the celebration at hand. And perhaps most telling of all, Shakira didn't move. She didn't approach. She didn't welcome. She didn't smile for the cameras and pretend all was well. Instead, she remained where she was, gracious, grounded, and emotionally present for the people who had shown up with purpose. She refocused her energy on the original intent of the evening. And in doing so, she reminded the entire room of what mattered. Eventually, Meghan attempted to engage with a few guests, many of whom offered polite but lukewarm interactions. Some smiled thinly. Others excused themselves after brief exchanges. A few simply nodded, then turned their backs. Meghan lingered near the back of the garden, clearly unsure of where to go or what to do next. That was when one of the coordinators, a young woman in a beige jumpsuit and wireless headset, quietly approached her. No confrontation, just a soft, respectful reminder that the VIP lounge was currently full, that there were no assigned seats available, that the program was already underway. In other words, there was no place for her. To her credit, Meghan didn't argue. She nodded politely, turned back toward the exit, and began walking away. But by then, the damage had been done. Her exit didn't garner the dramatic reaction that her entrance had. No one gasped. No one followed. The room exhaled, the tension breaking like a spell being lifted. Within minutes, the music picked up again. Laughter resumed. Glasses clinked. Shakira returned to the stage to give a heartfelt thank you speech, her voice stronger now, steadier. She didn't mention Meghan. She didn't have to. Everyone understood the unspoken boundary she had reinforced simply by holding her ground. This was her space, her story, her moment. And in a town where moments are currency, Meghan had just lost hers. The repercussions didn't wait for morning. Social media lit up that very night. Word had already spread through text chains and industry DMs. Video clips from guests circulated quietly. Grainy footage of Meghan standing awkwardly alone, of Shakira's team tightening their circle. Anonymous tweets from attendees hinted at the drama. By sunrise, the narrative had solidified. Meghan Markle had crashed Shakira's launch and had been silently but firmly iced out. In an era obsessed with narrative control, Meghan's appearance felt like a miscalculation. Whatever the intention, support, exposure, or simply an attempt to remain visible, it backfired. And it did so in front of a crowd that knows exactly how to read a room. But perhaps what made the entire moment so defining wasn't that Meghan had shown up uninvited. It was how visibly the room chose not to make space for her. In Hollywood, that silence speaks louder than any headline. In the world of celebrity events, a single phrase can ripple outward like a stone cast into a still pond, changing the surface, stirring the waters beneath, and echoing far beyond the immediate moment. At Shakira's Isima launch, that phrase was spoken softly, almost casually, yet carried a weight of sharpness and intent that no one could ignore. Who invited the Duchess of Drama? I thought we were launching conditioner, not a crown. It wasn't shouted. It wasn't staged. It was a whispered jab caught by one of the many insiders scattered around the venue, a comment that revealed far more than the surface glitz of the evening. It cut through the haze of designer scents and soft music, slicing into the core of an unspoken tension many had sensed but dared not articulate. To understand why those words landed with such impact, we have to unpack both the speaker and the target, and the broader context swirling around them. Shakira, the voice behind hits that have transcended language and culture, is no stranger to scrutiny. Her career spans decades, built on talent, resilience, and a fierce commitment to authenticity. Her persona isn't just that of a global superstar. It's of a woman who has survived heartbreak, public invasions of privacy, and relentless media speculation with grace and determination. She's known for letting her artistry speak louder than headlines, for refusing to be defined by gossip or controversy. Her new brand, Isima, represented all of that distilled into a tangible product line, carefully crafted, intentionally marketed, and emotionally charged. To Shakira, this wasn't just a business move. It was a reclamation of narrative, a declaration that she controls her story, her image, and her legacy. Then there was Meghan Markle, the Duchess, former actress turned royal, turned Hollywood hopeful, an increasingly controversial figure. Meghan's journey has been marked by flashes of brilliance, but also by a trail of public missteps, misunderstandings, and scandals that have plagued her since her earliest days in the spotlight. From the outset, her image has been a complicated mix of sympathy and skepticism, beloved by some for her candor and activism, criticized by others for perceived entitlement and orchestration. So, when Shakira's words echoed across the garden, they did more than just call out an uninvited guest. They exposed a growing divide between two different approaches to fame and reinvention. The phrase Duchess of Drama was more than a clever rhyme. It encapsulated a widespread sentiment among industry insiders that Meghan's presence, far from being a quiet show of support or harmless attendance, was a carefully calculated move, fueled by a desire to reclaim spotlight at any cost. It spoke to the exhaustion many felt with her ongoing public battles, the media circus she seemed unable or unwilling to escape. The second part of the roast, "I thought we were launching conditioner, not a crown," was an equally pointed reminder. This wasn't a royal event, nor was it a place to parade titles or expectations tied to birthright. This was a brand launch rooted in hard work, authenticity, and emotional healing. It was a night for celebrating product, purpose, and personal growth, not royalty or entitlement. Guests who overheard the comment later described the atmosphere shifting immediately. The usual murmur of polite chatter gave way to quiet chuckles and knowing glances. Some admired Shakira's restraint, how she managed to deliver such a stinging line without raising her voice or causing a scene. Others wondered whether she had intended it as a warning shot or simply an honest reflection of her feelings. Either way, it was clear Shakira was sending a message. Her team confirmed afterward that she had no interest in engaging Meghan directly that evening. "Shakira believes actions speak louder than words," said one insider. She didn't want to give the drama more fuel by making it public. But that one line, it said everything. Media outlets quickly picked up on the story, with commentators praising Shakira's quick wit and subtle shade. Some framed it as a David versus Goliath moment, the established global icon standing firm against the newcomer trying to gatecrash her narrative. Others noted the irony that Meghan, who often positioned herself as a champion of women's empowerment, had in this moment seemingly ignored the unspoken rules of respect and timing. Industry experts offered their take as well. Celebrity PR strategist Linda Matthews told reporters, "Events like this are about respect for the host, for the brand, and for the collective experience. Showing up uninvited is a breach, but Shakira's response was masterful. She didn't stoop to confrontation, but instead used humor and subtlety to make her point." Psychologists studying celebrity behavior pointed out that this moment revealed underlying dynamics of power and control. In situations like this, the person who owns the space sends signals, whether verbally or non-verbally, that establish boundaries. Shakira's line did just that. It reasserted her control and reminded everyone where the focus should be. And while Meghan remained silent publicly about the incident, insiders hinted that the roast hit a nerve. Those close to her described her mood as restrained frustration in the days following the launch. It was, some speculated, a realization that her attempts to infiltrate Hollywood's inner circles might be meeting more resistance than anticipated. The phrase also resonated with the public. Social media users quickly transformed Duchess of Drama into a viral hashtag. Memes and parodies flooded Twitter and TikTok, mixing clips of Meghan's most dramatic moments with clips of Shakira's cool composure. Celebrities weighed in too, some praising Shakira's poise, others expressing sympathy for Meghan's predicament. But the roast's brilliance lay not just in its content, but in its delivery and timing. Shakira's comment wasn't a shouted insult. It was a quiet assertion of boundaries at a moment when such boundaries mattered most. It allowed her to maintain her dignity, protect her brand, and send a clear signal to the room, all without escalating conflict or becoming embroiled in public drama. For Meghan, it was a public reminder that no title can buy respect, that relevance must be earned, not demanded, and that in spaces built on authenticity and shared values, there's little tolerance for uninvited theatrics. In the days that followed, the line was dissected, quoted, and replayed, becoming one of the defining moments of celebrity culture in the year. It crystallized the growing tension between two women whose paths briefly intersected on a night meant for celebration, only to become a lesson in power, presence, and public perception. To fully grasp why Meghan Markle chose to appear uninvited at Shakira's Isima launch, it's essential to understand the complex web of her recent career trajectory, public persona recalibration, and the ever-challenging quest for Hollywood relevance. Meghan's post-royal life has been a series of calculated moves aimed at reshaping her image beyond the confines of the monarchy. After stepping back from official royal duties, she and Prince Harry sought to build a new chapter as entertainment entrepreneurs, philanthropists, and cultural influencers. Their multi-million-dollar Netflix deal was initially hailed as a groundbreaking opportunity, proof that the former royals could carve out a unique space in the industry. But the deal's cancellation amidst financial disputes and creative differences left a sting that was impossible to ignore. At the same time, Meghan's visibility in the media fluctuated wildly. While some outlets praised her activism and candid interviews, others questioned her motives, highlighted alleged conflicts with former staff, and speculated endlessly about her influence within royal circles. This polarization played into the public's ambivalence toward her. An ambivalence that is often unforgiving in Hollywood, where public goodwill can vanish overnight. With those ups and downs, the pressure to remain relevant in a town that thrives on fresh stories and undeniable charisma must have weighed heavily on Meghan. Hollywood is notoriously unforgiving to those who fall out of favor or appear to be hanging onto fading glory. For someone whose entire public identity was built, at least partially, on royal association, the challenge was clear: how to transition from duchess to influential media personality without the cushion of monarchy. In this context, attending high-profile events, especially those centered on empowerment and brand launches, offered opportunities for Meghan to reassert her place in celebrity culture. The allure of rubbing elbows with icons like Shakira, who commands global respect and admiration, was undoubtedly strong. Such appearances can signal to industry insiders and fans alike that you're still in the game, still connected, still influential. But the key miscalculation was assuming that mere presence equates to belonging. Hollywood operates on subtle codes and carefully maintained hierarchies, even more so within exclusive events like Isima's launch. Invitations are extended not just to guests, but to stories carefully vetted for alignment with the event's purpose. The inclusion of guests signals approval and endorsement, a tacit acceptance that they embody the values the host wishes to project. By showing up without an invitation, Meghan bypassed these unspoken gatekeepers. Whether driven by overconfidence, a misreading of her welcome, or a strategic attempt to force her way back into the spotlight, the move was risky. It exposed her to scrutiny not only from the host, but from the assembled guests who expected a curated experience free from surprises. Industry insiders speculate that Meghan's team may have seen this as a soft re-entry into the celebrity beauty space. After all, launching a product like Isima, rooted in empowerment, authenticity, and womanhood, appeared to align with Meghan's own public messaging. Supporting a fellow woman's brand could be framed as an act of solidarity, a positive story that might help repair fractured relationships in Hollywood. However, this assumed alignment glossed over important differences. Meghan's history of publicized drama, combined with a reputation for blurring personal narratives with professional ventures, stood in contrast to Shakira's carefully crafted narrative of resilience and authenticity. Whereas Shakira's brand was deeply rooted in her personal story and cultural heritage, Meghan's narrative remained tethered to the royal framework she had publicly distanced herself from but could never entirely shed. Moreover, the timing was unfortunate. Meghan's Netflix deal fallout and various public controversies had not fully faded from the public consciousness. Skepticism was high. Supporters worried about her motivations. Critics waited for missteps. In such an environment, an uninvited appearance was a magnifying glass, amplifying existing doubts. The risk was compounded by Meghan's history of attending events without clear invitations. Reports over the years have suggested that she occasionally navigated Hollywood's social scene with a fluid approach to guest lists, sometimes relying on personal connections, sometimes pushing boundaries. While this can work in circles that value spontaneity and insider access, it often backfires in formal settings where exclusivity is paramount. In this case, it was clear that Meghan's attempt to insert herself into the Isima launch disrupted the delicate balance. What might have been a graceful entry had it been planned and coordinated became a jarring moment of intrusion. Her confidence in showing up unannounced may have been bolstered by the lingering cultural cachet of being a duchess. Titles can carry weight, especially in celebrity circles where connections often blur lines between social status and professional opportunity. Meghan's previous role within the royal family gave her a unique platform, one that many believed would continue to open doors long after her official duties ended. Yet, Hollywood's landscape is changing. The era where titles alone guaranteed access is waning. The demand for authenticity, contribution, and mutual respect has never been higher. And in spaces like Shakira's launch, where the focus was on celebrating personal growth and genuine artistry, the Duchess's royal past was less currency and more baggage. Some speculate Meghan's presence was also a calculated gamble, a way to signal resilience and refusal to be sidelined. By showing up uninvited, she may have been sending a message that she would remain visible, assertive, and unapologetic about her place in the public eye. But the gamble came with costs: alienation from peers, damage to her carefully managed image, and the very public cold shoulder that followed. PR experts observe that this incident reflects a broader challenge Meghan faces, balancing her desire for relevance with the need for respect within tight-knit industry communities. She's walking a razor's edge, said one consultant. On one hand, she needs visibility. On the other, she must honor unspoken social contracts, ignoring those risks being seen as desperate rather than dynamic. For Meghan, this incident at the Isima launch was not just a social misstep. It was a public illustration of the uphill battle to redefine herself on her own terms, outside the royal shadow, within a fiercely competitive entertainment world, and amidst a public that both watches and judges every move. In the glittering world of Hollywood, where charm and charisma often mask deeper currents of competition and politics, social cues carry immense power. Sometimes, what's not said, or who is not embraced, communicates more than any public statement ever could. At Shakira's Isima launch, this silent language of exclusion was on full display as Meghan Markle moved through the room, encountering a subtle but unmistakable chill from some of the industry's most influential figures. Unlike the dramatic confrontations that often make headlines, Hollywood's elite often rely on nuanced behavior to express disapproval or disinterest. Invitations can be withdrawn without explanation. Smiles can become forced, conversations cut short. The art of polite avoidance is one mastered through decades of experience. And on that night, Meghan was on the receiving end of precisely this unspoken rebuke. Eyewitnesses from the event later described moments when Meghan approached tables to engage in conversation, only to be met with distracted glances or polite but distant nods. At one point, a prominent stylist, who had once worked with Meghan on a red carpet appearance, reportedly offered a quick smile, but then excused themselves to attend another group. Another attendee recalled a high-profile actress turning her back mid-discussion when Meghan tried to join. These behaviors, seemingly minor on the surface, are anything but in a world where relationships are currency. To be ignored or avoided by one's peers signals a withdrawal of professional goodwill. It sends a message that someone is not fully accepted into the circle, that their presence is tolerated but not celebrated. Hollywood insiders explained that this cold shoulder reflected growing fatigue with Meghan's public persona. While her supporters emphasize her activism and personal struggles, many in the industry have grown wary of her perceived self-promotion and the controversies that seem to trail her. This wariness is especially acute in spaces like the Isima launch, where authenticity and humility are prized above notoriety. One publicist familiar with the event shared, "People here are protective of their own. When someone who hasn't been invited shows up and tries to insert themselves, it raises eyebrows. It feels disrespectful, and that makes others uncomfortable. It's not about personal dislike. It's about maintaining the integrity of the event and the relationships." The cold reception wasn't uniform, however. Some guests reportedly offered Meghan warm greetings and engaged in meaningful exchanges. These moments, while fewer, highlight the complex and often divided opinions about Meghan within Hollywood's social fabric. Still, the overall tone leaned toward distance rather than closeness. This distancing also mirrored broader trends in the entertainment industry. Meghan's journey from royal to Hollywood personality has been met with skepticism from some corners. Her media ventures, public interviews, and activism efforts have been scrutinized for sincerity and impact. In a town that values reinvention but demands authenticity, she has struggled to find consistent acceptance. Body language experts reviewing footage from the event pointed out telling signs. When Meghan entered the room, several guests subtly shifted away. A few tightened their jawlines or lowered their eyes when she approached. Even photographers seemed hesitant to capture her image compared to their eagerness earlier in the evening. These nonverbal cues are powerful in celebrity culture. They shape narratives, influence public opinion, and affect future opportunities. For Meghan, this silent rebuff was a public signal that, despite her status and efforts, she had not yet fully bridged the gap to Ho. Some analysts suggest this reception stems partly from Meghan's previous patterns of conflict with former staff and aides, which have been widely reported. Such reputational challenges often follow individuals in industries where trust and discretion are paramount. Moreover, the lingering tension between Meghan and other public figures, whether from the royal family or Hollywood circles, adds layers of complexity to her social interactions. While some may welcome her with open arms, others remain guarded, wary of the drama or disruption they fear her presence might bring. This chilly welcome also reflects an industry learning to assert boundaries against perceived entitlement. The subtle signals at the Isima launch illustrate a shift away from deference to titles or past achievements, toward a demand for genuine connection and respect earned through actions. The message was clear: celebrity alone is no longer enough. Authenticity, respect for space, and alignment with communal values matter more. Those who fail to navigate these social codes risk isolation, regardless of their fame. For Meghan, these silent rebuffs were not just social slights, but professional obstacles. Hollywood is a networked industry where relationships open doors to projects, endorsements, and collaborations. Being perceived as an outsider complicates these pathways. In response to these dynamics, Meghan's team reportedly engaged in behind-the-scenes efforts to mend fences and rebuild bridges. Invitations to smaller, more intimate gatherings followed. Charitable collaborations were proposed. Yet, the lingering effects of the Isima incident reminded all involved how delicate and fraught celebrity networking can be. Meanwhile, Shakira's guests remained largely united in their support for the launch and the values it embodied. Their collective demeanor, warm, engaged, and celebratory, contrasted sharply with the coolness Meghan faced, further highlighting the divide. Ultimately, the silent message conveyed by Hollywood's A-listers at that event served as a powerful commentary on the evolving standards of celebrity culture. Titles, connections, and media presence no longer guarantee acceptance. Instead, respect is earned daily through genuine relationships and adherence to community norms. Meghan Markle's experience at the Isima launch was a vivid illustration of this reality, a moment where subtle social signals spoke louder than headlines ever could. In the glittering yet notoriously unforgiving world of entertainment and celebrity, reputation is everything. It is the invisible currency that opens doors or slams them shut. After Meghan Markle's uninvited appearance at Shakira's Isima launch and the subsequent chilly reception from Hollywood's elite, speculation has intensified about whether Meghan is facing an unofficial blacklist within the industry. This chapter dives deep into the whispers, rumors, and confirmed reports suggesting that Meghan may be increasingly shut out from key circles in Hollywood. To understand the concept of a celebrity blacklist, it is essential to appreciate how informal and yet impactful such mechanisms are. Unlike formal bans or legal injunctions, blacklists in Hollywood operate behind the scenes, an unspoken consensus among event planners, casting directors, PR agencies, and influential figures. When a person is deemed too risky, too controversial, or too disruptive, word spreads quickly. Invitations stop coming. Collaborations dry up. Opportunities evaporate without explanation. Sources close to the entertainment industry reveal that Meghan's name has increasingly been associated with such discussions. While there is no official public record of a blacklist, multiple insiders confirm that her reputation has made some gatekeepers wary. Event organizers hesitate to extend invites for fear of unplanned disruptions or negative press. Stylists and agents are cautious in associating with her to avoid backlash or alienating other clients. This phenomenon is not unique to Meghan. Hollywood history is filled with examples of artists and personalities who, for various reasons, found themselves isolated due to perceived behavior, conflicts, or public controversies. However, the scale and visibility of Meghan's situation are unusual given her royal background and high-profile public standing. A senior public relations executive explained, "When a celebrity's presence starts to attract more drama than goodwill, it becomes a liability. No one wants their event overshadowed or their brand linked to controversy." Meghan's recent history, especially after the Netflix fallout and now the Isima incident, has raised red flags among many. This risk-averse attitude has manifested in various ways. Invitations to major award shows, gala dinners, and industry parties have reportedly diminished. Some insiders say that Meghan has been quietly disinvited from events she was initially slated to attend. Others describe last-minute changes to guest lists that exclude her without official comment. Stylists and creative directors, whose endorsements often shape celebrity appearances, have also been hesitant. There are rumors of stylists declining to work with Meghan on upcoming projects, citing concerns over potential media scrutiny or strained relationships with other clients. While Meghan's team has tried to maintain a steady stream of public engagements and philanthropic appearances, these have tended to be smaller or less mainstream events, further fueling perceptions of reduced access to Hollywood's core social and professional networks. Media outlets covering Hollywood's social scene have noted a trend toward Meghan's lower visibility in recent months. Although she remains a frequent topic in tabloid headlines, her actual presence at high-profile, influential events has waned. Analysts suggest this gap is both a cause and effect of her possible blacklisting. Yet, the situation is nuanced. Meghan still has supporters within the industry, friends and collaborators who value her activism and media projects. Some agents and producers see potential in working with her for future content, particularly with streaming platforms eager for star power. However, the broader hesitancy among Hollywood's gatekeepers remains a significant obstacle. The rumored blacklist also highlights the fragility of celebrity status, especially for someone navigating transitions as complex as Meghan's, from actress to royal to media entrepreneur. Each phase demands recalibration of public image, professional alliances, and personal branding. Missteps, whether real or perceived, can reverberate widely. Further complicating matters is the ongoing media scrutiny around Meghan's relationships with former staff and aides. Reports of internal conflicts and allegations of difficult behavior have circulated extensively, reinforcing a narrative of volatility that some industry figures find off-putting. Critics argue that Meghan's public and private personas appear misaligned, creating challenges for Hollywood professionals accustomed to clear-cut reputations. In an industry where collaboration and trust are paramount, perceived unpredictability can be a deal-breaker. Despite these challenges, Meghan's resilience and resources cannot be underestimated. With a dedicated team and a global platform, she continues to pursue new projects, partnerships, and public engagements. Whether she can overcome this period of isolation remains an open question, but the existence of an informal industry blacklist underscores the steep hill she faces. The Isima launch incident served as a high-profile flashpoint, illuminating these undercurrents. It became a symbol of broader resistance within Hollywood to Meghan's attempts at reintegration. The cold reception was not just personal, but emblematic of an industry signaling boundaries and expectations. For Meghan, rebuilding trust and securing invitations back into Hollywood's inner circles will require strategic finesse, humility, and perhaps a recalibration of her public approach. It will mean understanding the subtle social codes that govern acceptance and demonstrating consistent respect for those unwritten rules. In sum, the industry blacklist, real or rumored, is a formidable barrier. It reflects not only Meghan's recent missteps, but also the complex dynamics of power, reputation, and belonging in celebrity culture. The coming months will be crucial in determining whether Meghan can navigate these obstacles and reclaim her place among Hollywood's influential figures, or whether she will remain on the fringes of an exclusive world that is increasingly resistant to her presence. When news of Meghan Markle's uninvited appearance at Shakira's Isima launch began to circulate, the response from her public relations team was swift, but arguably insufficient to quell the growing storm. This chapter explores the behind-the-scenes scramble by Meghan's publicists to manage the fallout, the strategies they employed, and why many experts and observers viewed their efforts as coming too late and lacking the nuance required to salvage the situation. Damage control in the world of celebrity is both an art and a science. It requires anticipating public reaction, shaping narratives proactively, and, crucially, understanding the subtle signals that resonate with both media and audiences. For Meghan, whose public image had already been through multiple high-profile crises, the stakes were especially high. Within hours of the story breaking, Meghan's team released a statement claiming that her attendance at the event was informal and welcomed, suggesting that there had been a misunderstanding about the guest list. This narrative attempted to position Meghan not as a gatecrasher, but as a well-meaning supporter of a fellow woman's brand. However, multiple sources directly involved with the event quickly debunked this claim. Event organizers, Shakira's representatives, and several attendees confirmed that Meghan was not officially invited, and that her arrival was unexpected. Some insiders described the statement as a PR bluff meant to soften the blow, but one that ultimately undermined Meghan's credibility. This conflicting messaging fueled skepticism among journalists and social media users alike. Commentators pointed out that the inconsistency between Meghan's publicists' claims and eyewitness reports raised questions about transparency and honesty. For a figure already scrutinized for managing her image so meticulously, this misstep was damaging. More problematic was the timing of the damage control. Rather than preempting potential backlash with clear communication or private coordination with the event's organizers, Meghan's team appeared reactive, responding only after the story gained traction online and in tabloids. In celebrity PR, timing can mean the difference between narrative dominance and damage amplification. Experts in crisis communication noted that an effective response would have involved early outreach to Shakira's team to clarify the situation and coordinate a unified message. Instead, the fragmented approach left room for speculation and competing versions of the story. Social media also amplified the problem. The initial statement was met with a wave of criticism and mockery, with users sharing clips of Shakira's reported comments and contrasting them with Meghan's claim of a welcome visit. Hashtags questioning Meghan's integrity and professionalism trended worldwide, intensifying negative sentiment. Meghan's publicists attempted to pivot by highlighting her philanthropic work and her history of supporting women entrepreneurs. Press releases emphasized her dedication to empowerment and framed the Isima event attendance as consistent with these values. However, these efforts failed to shift focus away from the core issue, the uninvited presence, and the public embarrassment it caused. Several public relations specialists interviewed after the incident suggested that Meghan's team underestimated the importance of context and emotional resonance in their messaging. It's not just about what you say, but how and when you say it, one expert explained. Acknowledging missteps with humility can often garner more goodwill than denial or deflection. Meanwhile, Shakira's team maintained a dignified silence on the specifics of Meghan's attendance, but subtly reinforced the importance of event integrity in public statements. This contrast in handling the situation played into public perceptions of professionalism and authenticity. Meghan herself remained quiet publicly, choosing not to comment on the incident. While this approach can sometimes diffuse tension, in this case, it left the narrative dominated by media speculation and social media commentary, most of it unfavorable. Some insiders speculate that Meghan's silence was strategic, aiming to avoid fueling further controversy. Others believe it reflected internal confusion and a lack of consensus within her team about the best course of action. This PR mismanagement also raised questions about Meghan's broader media strategy in Hollywood. After the Netflix deal's collapse and other setbacks, she faces the challenge of rebuilding trust with industry insiders and the public. Effective communication is a crucial tool in this process, one that was notably absent in the Isima launch aftermath. In retrospect, the incident illustrates the precarious position Meghan occupies. Her team's failure to anticipate the fallout and respond effectively underscored vulnerabilities in her public image management. It also highlighted the heightened scrutiny she faces as a figure constantly navigating the intersection of celebrity, royalty, and media mogul ambitions. For Meghan's publicists, the Isima launch became a cautionary tale about the limits of reactive damage control in an era of instantaneous social media response and relentless media coverage. Whether future PR efforts will learn from this misstep remains to be seen. But for now, the incident stands as a vivid example of how even minor social blunders can escalate into significant reputation crises when not managed with foresight and finesse. The night of Shakira's Isima launch was a gathering of powerful women, industry leaders, and influential figures. Notably absent from the glittering rooftop was Prince Harry, Meghan Markle's husband and steadfast partner through their turbulent post-royal journey. His absence, while not unexpected, raised questions among observers and insiders alike. Did Harry know about Meghan's uninvited appearance? Did he warn her against it? And what does his silence say about their current relationship dynamic? Prince Harry has maintained a lower public profile in recent months compared to Meghan. While he remains active in philanthropy and occasional public appearances, he has largely avoided headline-grabbing stunts or controversial events. This approach is widely seen as an attempt to rebuild his own identity outside the shadow of the royal institution and media frenzy. Insiders suggest that Harry's strategy is more cautious and measured than Meghan's. He appears to prefer behind-the-scenes influence, focusing on charitable work and quietly supporting his wife's ventures rather than engaging in high-profile social gambits. This contrast in approaches has been noted repeatedly by royal watchers and media commentators. Leading up to the Isima launch, sources indicate that Harry was aware of Meghan's plans to attend various industry events as part of her efforts to reconnect with Hollywood circles. However, it remains unclear whether he was informed specifically about her intention to show up uninvited at Shakira's launch or whether he advised against it. Several insiders claim that Harry was concerned about Meghan's increasing visibility at events without formal invitations, warning that such actions could backfire and damage their collective reputation. One source described him as worried about the optics and encouraging more strategic planning. Despite this, Meghan appeared to proceed with her plan, suggesting a degree of independence or possibly disconnect in their decision-making processes. Some speculate that Meghan's desire to assert herself and reclaim agency in her career may have overridden Harry's cautious counsel. Analysts studying their public appearances and statements in recent months note a subtle shift in the couple's dynamic. While they have consistently presented a united front publicly, body language experts observe moments of tension or emotional distance during joint engagements. These observations fuel speculation that underlying disagreements or stressors may be affecting their relationship. The fallout from the Isima event only adds fuel to these rumors. Harry's choice not to attend, coupled with his silence afterward, is interpreted by some as tacit disapproval or a deliberate distancing from the controversy. However, others caution against overreading these signals. Harry may have been occupied with separate commitments or choosing to avoid public scrutiny by staying out of the limelight during this particular event. In a world where privacy is scarce and every action is dissected, sometimes absence simply means absence. Regardless, the optics are difficult to ignore. In a high-stakes environment where image management is paramount, Harry's no-show at a major event linked to his wife invites questions about their coordination and solidarity. The incident also sheds light on the broader pressures the couple faces as they navigate their complex roles. Balancing personal ambition, media expectations, and public scrutiny is an ongoing challenge. Harry, known for his protective nature toward Meghan, may be trying to shield her from further fallout by staying off the radar. Royal experts suggest that Harry's silence may also be strategic. By not commenting, he avoids exacerbating tensions or giving the media additional fodder for speculation. It allows Meghan space to handle the situation on her own terms. Still, The absence leaves fans and critics alike wondering about the state of their partnership. Are they truly aligned in their public and private endeavors? Or are cracks beginning to show under the relentless pressure? The Isima launch episode becomes a microcosm of this broader narrative, a moment where Meghan's solo action contrasts sharply with Harry's quiet withdrawal. It invites reflection on how the couple navigates collaboration, support, and individual agency amid the spotlight. Looking ahead, this incident may prompt reassessment within their team about communication and coordination. Ensuring that their public appearances and messaging align will be crucial to maintaining a coherent image. Ultimately, Prince Harry's silent absence on that pivotal night speaks volumes, both about the challenges they face and the delicate balancing act required to thrive in their unique positions.